Namaste. This is Doksha Hour. I am Maggie Ross, and I am live from Porcupine, South Dakota, where the porcupines roam along the Porcupine Creek. Having a little bit of trouble looking at. It looks like the live stream is up. It was a little bit. I wasn't for sure because they kept saying there was an error, and so then I just um, opened another tab and then it looks like it's up. So, anyways, good morning. Good morning, Jessica. Thanks for joining this morning. Hopefully, we'll get more people coming. Anyways, it is June. They don't have June Day, like how they have May Day. They don't have June Day. Nothing spectacular about June except for Juneteenth and Father's Day. So, kind of anxious for that to come along. And it's also like we're officially in ceremony season. So we know there's a lot of people preparing for their ceremony, for their prayer, getting ready to do all of those things. And it's really been um, a long year for me personally. Like I'm looking forward to having some time to go pray and um, for myself, like the strength and those things, to endure. Because life can be just difficult. Like the things that I've done this year, I'm still in well, the year is up, for my niece and my nephew. And so that's like coming to an end now. Like we can move on. I've changed jobs, and they always say, um, in grief, in grief, you should not do these kind of things, you should. So it was really a decision for me to make, to do I do it? Do I go? Because I really did love teaching at OLC, like OLC students, my coworkers, they're all fabulous people. But it's like in my own life, like looking at things and saying, I need to grow. I need to do something other than what I was doing because I felt like I was very stagnant, like I wasn't growing, and OLC just wasn't offering me the opportunities to grow and to do things, just like um, when I think about being a teacher all these years and thinking about students, like in the K-12 education system, we put our children in these school boxes, right? And we're going to, when they come out of the box, they're going to be the same, this cookie cutter image of what an American is supposed to be. And as Lakota people, we've always kind of defied that. Like we're not so much about wanting to be the cookie cutter image of an American. Like we want to be Lakota people. And so that's kind of how I felt. I was in this cookie cutter place where where I exist within myself. Like those things were trying to be kind of in the sense of like boarding school where they beat it out of you basically. And so that's how I felt at OLC. I felt like that's where I was. I couldn't grow, I couldn't do anything. And the things that were there, like, weren't for me. They weren't for me. And so I often think about like something my grandpa said. And he didn't say it to me, he said it to another family member that like that the person that he was speaking to, like, you just work there, you work for them, that's what you're supposed to do, you work for them. You don't own it, you don't any of that, you just work there. And so I had to put that on, and I had to come to the realization for myself that that's what it was. Like, that's where I am. And even though I loved OLC, even though all of those things, um, I didn't own OLC. OLC didn't belong to me. It belonged to whoever it belongs to. The Board of Trustees or the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council or whatever. That's where it belongs. And it didn't belong to me. And so fighting something that doesn't belong to me just is a lot of waste of energy. And so that's kind of like where my mindset started really shifting about things, like I don't own that. That doesn't belong to me. So I shouldn't be wasting energy into something that doesn't belong to me, that I don't necessarily agree with anymore. And that when I started to do that, it kind of even got to that with um, how I looked at things with tribal council, tribal government, tribal whatever. Like it don't belong to me. I'm sitting over here getting myself mad, getting all upset over something that doesn't belong to me. Sure, they use me. Sure, they use everybody, as a part of membership, but it doesn't technically belong to me. So what do I do? Like, do I continue to be mad, get upset, and be critical and waste a lot of energy on something that isn't going to change and doesn't belong to me? What's her name? Joni Erst is getting a lot of flack, right? Because she said to somebody in her crowd when she was at a meeting, they said to her that, in regards to the Medicaid cuts, people are going to die. And she says, we're all going to die. And that's that's like a really crazy answer, but it's, truthfully, we all are gonna die. And I've just come to some different places in my life where I think about that. The disparity of we all are going to die is Joni Erst is not gonna die the same way that we're going to die. Joni Erst is going to be having top health care because she's on the Senate. And so she's going to have benefits that are far outweigh the rest of us. But what can I do about that? Because everybody in South Dakota is going to vote for whatever Republican. And everybody in South Dakota, that's just how they are. Majority of these people don't even like us as Lakota people, but we can't even get it together as Lakota people to even stand up to them because they've divided us so bad. It just even like this, looking at the Palestinian plight and what's happening over there, like they did that to them and to any movement, so now you speak up, you can go to jail. Like our people, remember they said America first. That's what Donald Trump is all about. America first, but yet this is all the stuff that he's doing. America first, but yet we're going to send all our money to Israel. America first, while we're going to defend Israel. We're going to lock our own American citizens up for defending or speaking up against genocide and apartheid and speaking up about how they use our money. And so this just gets to like bare root bottom things in our reality of what we're dealing with. Our tax dollars. Man, I heard this guy tell one of the brutalest truths. It was about 10 minutes long, and I listened to it, and I was like, holy crappers. Because he says in there, like, talks about um, every 2 weeks on our pay stub is a FICA, is Medicare, is Social Security. Every 2 weeks, we're giving, the worker, the people, the worker that is out here in America, we are the ones giving them the money to send to Israel to terrorize the Palestinian people. I was just like, oh my God. It was like so many different kind of, what? But it's truth. It's truth. So what do you do about it? Well, we can do a massive protest and not pay our taxes. Everybody can go in and zero. Oh no, not zero. Claim all whatever, five dependents, and pay in zero, and then at income tax time pay in everything. I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is. We could boycott, we can all like go on strike. I mean, there's a lot of things that they hooked us. So they hooked us in debt. So they create a debt system so that we have to go borrow money to get something. You need a car, you have to go borrow money for a car. You have to borrow money maybe to get a place, or well, most likely you do. You have to go get a mortgage to buy a home. So they keep us in this box. And if we threaten or if we dare to challenge the system, what ends up happening is we lose our job. You become unemployed. Once you become unemployed, and I'll tell you, this happened to me before, and it was it was horrible. It was a very difficult time. And if it wasn't for my family, my mom helping me out, giving me shelter because I ended up homeless, all of what I just said happened to me. I lost my job, and because they couldn't legally terminate me, they rifted my position. And then from there, then the people that were responsible for that sat in other powerful positions. And then from there, they anywhere I applied to teach, they had their attorney and themselves sitting on all these boards. And so even though I was a highly qualified teacher, they would not hire me. Like they'd give me the interview and be real excited. One even told me that they were going to recommend me and to be hearing on Monday, and they would have a place for me to move. All of that. And then it was just like I never heard nothing, never heard nothing, never heard nothing. And then I found out, oh, that's why. And so people are forced to play the game, and I didn't play the game. I didn't. I stood in my morals about things and suffered the consequence for that. And so I became homeless. And so if it wasn't for my mother helping me out, giving me a place to sleep, and my children and my grandchildren, I would I would have been in a very hard place. And and because she gave me that time and that opportunity to get it together, I had to leave this reservation and go work on another reservation in order for me to get a job. And even that tried to fall. It's still, they try to go over there and, say something, but I was really thankful that the superintendent and that school district didn't, they didn't take it, or listen. And so I was very fortunate to be up in Cheyenne River. And then I got to meet a lot of fabulous people, a lot of fabulous students and stuff. And so I know the hardship that ends up being faced. And so when you're thinking about, like, and I understand that for people, when you're thinking about, well, how involved, how invested, how am, like I have to think about things. And for me, like I didn't have a home. And so I was very, very fortunate for this doctor at IHS. He had just come, he is a dentist or whatever, bought property in Gordon, and he had this old trailer house sitting on his property and he was trying to get rid of it, but nobody would take it. And so my best friend got a hold of me and said, let's go look at it. So we went to go look at it, and then I said I'd take it. All I had to do was move it. And so I had to find someone to move it. And so I moved it. And so then I never wanted to be in a place anymore into where a job or whatever would have authority to make me homeless. And so then I just put all my resources when I can into renovating my recycled trailer house. And one day it'll just be me living here because my daughter's already on her own. Um, and then my son will probably be on his own, and then it'll just be me here. And I don't have to worry. So if somebody wants to take my job away from me, well, I still have a home. And I still, I garden. I do things to try to be self-sustainable. And so flies are back. I haven't found my fly swatter yet, but they're back. So that's why I'm swinging around like this. Flies everywhere. Flies, flies, flies. Yeah. So anyways, these flies, and then it just gets worse just because I mentioned them now. I got to get 500 flies sitting around me. So there's a lot of sacrifices people have to make or consider when it comes to just whether whether you're living on a tribal reservation or you're not living on a tribal reservation. One of the things that I found extremely fascinating and interesting was like in China. In China, they don't have property tax. So that's the other thing that's going to get somebody. So you paid off your farm or paid off your house, it's all paid for and you don't have to pay for nothing. It's bought and paid, but then you still have to pay property tax. So if you're unemployed, then you have to figure out ways in which you're going to pay your property tax. And if you don't pay your property tax, you can lose your property, even though you've spent. And I know some people who've done this, like down in Florida. I know some people who went in and picked up property based off of property taxes. I had a relative have that done to them, not really understanding the property tax that they had to pay the property tax, and so they thought it was all a part of their mortgage, and then they ended up after like I can't even remember how many years lost their house. So that's one of the things, property taxes. Um, Other things, so it's really important, like if you're gonna do something to really have a plan. And another thing would be like sometimes I agree with some of the positions of MAGA, right? Like I agree about getting rid of taxes, property taxes. Like people shouldn't have to, once you buy your home, you shouldn't, and buy the land, you shouldn't have to continue paying taxes on those. Maybe they should just have a universal income tax. They do that already. That universal income tax should be paying for things, um, paying for those. Another thing that I've learned is for the longest time, what paid for things around here was tariffs. And so now we have Donald Trump trying to get back into the tariff business. He can't even do it right. He hurts us in the end. It's like they didn't have all kinds of taxes, they just had a tariff tax. And so, like many of us, we feel this, right? So maybe it's just the sales tax that we're paying, the tariff. But now we feel it because we get paid and they take our employment tax, right? Our FICA, Social Security, Medicaid, those come out, those taxes. And then, so we get our paycheck and we go out into the world to pay for whatever it is we're going to pay for. And then we pay taxes. We pay taxes on the goods that we're going to buy. And then we pay taxes on sometimes they call them um, because they Republicans try to say that they're anti-tax or whatever, like doing that, but then instead of it being a tax, they call it a fee. So then we end up paying a large amount of money on fees, not taxes. And so there's a lot of things going on with that. And I agree, like in the end of the day, you may have 25 cents of that dollar that you earned might actually be for you, the 75 cents you've paid in taxes. So if you take that and you look at, so let me get my calculator here. Let's do some figuring. Oops. So if you go and let me pull up my calculator. So say somebody makes the average income, I don't want to say average because that's that can be notoriously wrong. I mean inaccurate for determining. So the median income, let's say is $36,000 median income. That isn't here on this res, but 36,000 is the medium. And you're going to times that by 0.75. So basically 27,000 of your income is going to taxes. Just based, just using the theoretical 75%. I mean, it's just numbers that I hear people throwing out there and all the taxes that we have to pay for. And even if it was, whoops, I don't know why my thing my clear button doesn't want to be cleared. It wants to be a back button. So even if we went 36,000 and we just went with the basic 25%, you pay $9,000 a year in taxes. But in that opposite, that's what you're getting for yourself. That's what you've earned is $9,000. So this stuff can get pretty wild and frustrating. And so people then try to make more money because you need to bring in more because it costs so much to live. So you're trying to bring in more money. Well, then your taxes go up even more. So then you're paying even more. And even, so then it becomes less. So you could have make $10,000 more in a year, but then somehow that becomes hindrance on your income because now you're going to have to pay more in taxes. And so you'll see that in your pay stub every 2 weeks or whatever. Crazy. So when people go about and think like like why are people not standing up? Why? Because this is like a heavy, heavy thing that sits on people that you have to have income. You have to have some way. Oh, goodness. So I did have another person from the Facebook Toksa Hour reach out and say, "Hey, what happened to you?" So I said, "We moved to YouTube." Like really? So I don't know if he's tuned in, but yeah. So slowly every week, people I run and talk to somebody or whatever, and they'll say, "Hey, what happened to you?" And I say, "Oh, we're on YouTube now." So maybe soon we'll start building our programming over here. I think when we left Doksha Hour on Facebook, we were up to like 7,000 followers or something like that. So maybe eventually they'll all come over. Good morning, Steve. I'm glad to see you here with us. Yeah, so it's really different. The other thing is like to to break a system, you have to really have like that family cohesion and that family effort. So in order um to break the system where you do cooperatives, so you build together, you grow together, you do, kind of like our traditional bands. When you do like you have to have those agreements to do it, and then actually do the work. And so that becomes a problem because sometimes we have hindrances, like we don't have tools, we don't have this, we don't have that. So then it becomes a little hard for us to do things. I'm gonna say I'm in Toksa hour. I'm getting text messages. So back to Trump's America First. So this was something that let's see if I can pull it up here. Oh, these flies are horrible. Oh, it's in my screenshots, I think. I was taking screenshots because I'm gonna make a video about these things. If I can find my screenshot. Ooh, shots. This is the one. So this is I had this crazy thing happen to me. So I went to go ask, I was asking Chat GPT. I wanted to know, I wanted to, I wanted to know how many of Trump's people were were supporters of Israel. I mean, how many of his administration appointments, and Chat GPT comes back and says, Donald Trump is not the president of the United States. And I'm like, what? He is. It's pretty comical. Anyways, they kept saying that, and I'm like, no, Donald. So then I say, Donald Trump is the president. He is the sitting president. And Chat GPT still comes back and says, no, Biden's the president. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, oh my God, is AI having a meltdown? Is AI wanting to go backwards? So I had to just do a regular internet search. And so this is what it gave me. So these are all Donald Trump's appointments, and they are all um, strong supporters of Israel and their right to defense and to defend themselves and all of that. And so when Donald Trump is trying to come out and say something, I don't know how he's doing it. Like he wants to, I want to, bring peace or have whatever. These guys are all against that. All of them. They're all against it. Kristi Noem, she was sitting governor here in South Dakota, and she brought in the APAC people, and they got them to pass a law. So we have a law in the state of South Dakota that says that if you are a contractor and you contract from the federal government or from the state government, you cannot participate in any boycotts or speaking out against um, Israel. It's considered anti-Semitic. But anyways, these are the people um, that are telling Trump what to do. And so when they're trying to say that they're doing this, we have to go back and look at who these people are. And it was his own Mike Lee, I think his name was Mike Lee or Mike whatever, who included Israel into some signal chats. So Israel knew. And so there's this whole thing about how Mossad, which is the CIA of Israel, so Mossad and the CIA are closely working together, and they closely make decisions. Um, we give, and this was one of the other things that's so horrible, is that we give in our tax dollars every 2 weeks, right? We fund this. So they send, and they talk about Obama in 2013, I think it was. He signed an agreement that we would give $36 billion to Israel. And in the agreement, it said that Israel would use that money to purchase weapons from our, not from the United States government, but they would purchase them from the military industrial complex. So the private contractors, that's what they would do. And so it's just horrible. Like I'm learning so much about these things, about the how bad this goes. And it's getting really bad when you have people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, speaking out. There's Joe Rogan. These are like, and even Steve Bannon. Like Steve Bannon's like was all about, and then now he's like pulling away. And I don't know if it's over um Elon Musk. I don't know if it's over him that he's doing that, but so there's like some people that are getting that were on the MAGA bus. So there are MAGA bus people that are saying, "Hey, we don't agree with this. Hey, this," and so then you get like Tucker Carlson. Candace Owens has been doing some phenomenal stuff. She's got Ian Carroll currently kind of sitting in for her because she, had a baby. And so they've been doing some reporting on actually where this funding is. And so we don't even have independent journalism anymore. So this is how independent journalism is. Our journalism has to be independent in this sense because all of the corporate news is corporate news, and so they're not able to tell us these things. They are forbidden unless it's going to be a profit for them to tell us some way, and then it gets all watered down. And so you don't see it. You don't see it, but it's happening. And there are people that are putting it out there. So I watch a little bit Candace Owens, even when she was strictly like whatever she was doing over there, because I like to listen to different people, points of views. I really like to look at points of view, how people come to their points of view, and that. So the other thing is, um, there's some things that are happening, and like you have to really be careful about it because people will put this, there's like what do they call them? Neo-Nazis, the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. So they're co-opting a lot of this Palestine stuff for their narrative. And so then they'll go and they'll blame the Jewish people instead of the Israeli government. They will blame the Jewish people. And then they will put all this narrative twist, it's kind of like this. Um, when they say, okay, so about 5 years ago, just right around COVID, I was reviewing the school district social studies curriculum. They put it online so you could review it, look at it. And so I was looking at the fifth grade social studies. Um, and in the curriculum, it said that, talking about westward expansion, that there was so much land that the indigenous people, the native people wanted to share their land. Or even like when the Thanksgiving feast that we sat down and we shared this meal, like making it look like we were all, like, oh, yeah, when that's not it. So it's the whitewashing or retelling, and that's what Donald Trump is pushing for. They want to change this narrative so that people don't know what the truth is. And this is the stuff that we barely broke through. We broke out of that stuff so people can know. And so, like, now they try to say slavery was an indentured service for African Americans, or they try to say, um, slavery wasn't, people chose slavery kind of stuff. It's like, what? That's insane. You guys are insane. So the rewriting of history. And so you see the attacks, you see everything that they're doing, critical race theory. A few years ago, that was a thing. And Doksha Hour had a couple shows on it, critical race theory, the coming after it, the states, all these Republicans, because they did not like the truth. And then I was listening to this scholar, and he was talking about how um, white people, YT, hey, are anyways, they never created civilization. They never had civilization. And so then he talks about Rome and Greece, and he says those were warring cultures, warring cult cultures is what he called them. And then that's kind of what spread. And so that's what we are in, is these warring cult cultures. So they're not civilizations. And it was really interesting. So it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I have to look at your evidence. See, just looked at her own family tree or what? Yeah, you're right. And then MAGA really uses like Christianity, or they're Christians, the evangelicals. And this one lady, they were really attacking her on her social media site. And so then she comes out and just starts reading the Bible, like all the places and where Jesus talked about feeding the poor and housing the houseless, or clothing the people with no clothes, and helping people. And then says that, like, if you don't help them, then you don't help me. So it's like really, I guess we're to those points now. But I think people have to have the courage to kind of withstand it. And I think that's like the lessons that we have as Lakota people. The buffalo. They say be like the buffalo, and the buffalo, he just goes into the storm, faces it. It's better to face it than to like not face it. Because if you don't face the storm, it's gonna come anyways. So if you're facing the storm, then you're getting yourself ready for it. Whether that's even like getting like this, where you have to strengthen yourself, tighten up to get ready to go through the storm. And so those are some of the things that we need to think about, is like getting through the storm. How are we going to get through the storm? Are we going to face it? Are we gonna look the other way and act like the storm is not coming? Are we going to pray it goes around us? What are we gonna do? I don't know. Like I don't. I always think about my grandpa and my grandparents and people that gone before me. And how they were always preparing. Look to the clouds. Oh, hey, did you guys hear that they're Trump and RFK Jr. They're gonna they are stopping or something like this, the cloud seeding, the manipulation of the weather. Yeah, they're gonna stop that. I think that's a good thing, but I don't really understand what they're doing. They haven't come out with their plan. Because one of the things I've been in, I think it was in like January or February, I was kind of obsessed with the weather rabbit hole. So I was spending a lot of time watching things in regards to the manipulation of weather and cloud seeding, and then how all of this is affecting the earth. And so, like in one, it talks about the cloud seeding and that they use this some kind of aluminum that's very harmful, but it does help like attract other things that make weather. And so when that falls in like in rain onto trees, instead of like they talk about when a tree dies, it's kind of basically dying at the root, but these are all dying from within. Like, so that's why forest fires are so dangerous. So I spent probably more time than I needed to doing that and trying to be like just be suspicious because there even in one it showed where they can take weather from South Africa. So they are creating, and this is from the 60s, creating droughts in South Africa. So we're stealing their water, their moisture in their air. So as it builds up and it comes up through the ocean, then it's these great raging hurricanes and storms that are coming into Florida. So I'm gonna see what Trump and RFK. I mean, I think RFK must have got caught in what they call those honey traps, with Israel. So he's so that way, so supporting and defending of them. But he's a very knowledgeable person too, and like his whole family's always been about betterment or whatever. So, and RFK Jr. has always, because his dad was always about Native people, and so he's kind of like that too. Anyway, so um, just trying to figure out what their plan is about the climate. But we know because we experience it. Like I think it was in Texas, they showed these hail that were the size of like cantaloupes. And we see like baseball, softball size hail falling here in South Dakota. So we know, and it like the weather is so dramatic around here. Like it's destroying, it can destroy it, and it does. And that's why they say it's Wakan, right? But then we're manipulating the weather. And so it's becoming so severe. They talk about dry electrical storms. And so we know, like, when the Wakia come, the things that we're supposed to do. But then these guys are going and just manipulating everything, and they don't even know that, while we pay the price of that too. Like, look at we have bird flu again. So they're talking about the killing of millions of chickens again because of bird flu. And that's all man-made. Like scientists, these governments, they've created bird flu. And they try to, then they're mad, right? They want us gone. I think just people of color. They want people of color gone, so they have to do all these poisoning, COVID, bird flu, whatever they can create an event, and give it to us. So they do that, but then they go and do all these things like they don't want us here, but they sure want the babies, right? Like they're saying, because millennials and mostly Gen Z is not having babies. And so there's going to be no babies to put into the system to support the millennials because millennials are as large as the boomers, if not bigger than the boomers. And so if people are not having babies, then there's nobody to support the system. And so then that's kind of another reason why. Plus, the YT race of people, our YT skin colored people, are in decline. Like, I mean, because the women are not having babies. They're just making decisions. We don't want to do this. We have our own goals in life. And so that's why they're working so hard to dismantle things for women because they need us to be, well, not all of us. They just need their women to be barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen cooking. So they don't want the rest of us like that. They just have to create all kinds of things to. I mean, look at what they're doing to the Palestinian babies. The babies, these people have come out to even say that their war isn't even with Hamas. Their war is with the babies. I should pull something up to show you guys. That's what they're saying. It's crazy. Hold on. Says this is in the Times of Israel. Gaza has won and Gaza will win. Arab MK's speech at anti-war rally. So Netanyahu is really getting done in by his own people too. Like it's not. I mean, they're still like at 80% of people that believe the children should be. That's the war. Um, and then they're just full-fledged bombing. So this is in I was trying to share. The share didn't work. Hold on. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So this is coming out of news.com.australia or AU. Israeli politician shocking comments about killing babies. And it says an Israeli politician has broadcast shocking comments about babies being killed during a live interview on local TV. Every child, every baby in Gaza is an enemy. The enemy is not Hamas. Far-right Israeli politician Moshe Feiglin declared on Wednesday, "We need to conquer Gaza and colonize it and not leave a single Gazan child there. There is no other victory." Video of the comments has been shared widely on social media, including by Adil Hogg, a professor of law at the esteemed Rutgers Law School in the U.S. state of New Jersey. And so this is what we're facing. And this is something that was just told to me this morning as well. So not only is the war declared against the children, we should feel that, right? As Indigenous people, as Native Americans, we should feel that because that's how it was for us. we should also know so that they are trying to now categorically divide. So they're taking women and putting them in one section of their concentration camps that they're building. They're taking men and putting them in another, and they're taking children and putting them in another. So what does that sound like? And nobody's doing anything. And so you and I and everybody else that works in the United States, we're paying for this. So if that doesn't enrage you, you need to get in, I hope something, at least write a letter, make a call. And I know, like I started this show talking about the risks and the consequences that it takes, but it also having courage, having the courage to stand up to it and to do it. Because if enough people do it, then it changes. But if I'm the only one, you're the only one, if there's only five of us doing it, then no change. We become dissenters and people they can dismiss, like they do to poor Code Pink. I don't know if you guys know of Code Pink. If you're wherever you're at, whatever social media platform you're on, you should find them and follow them. They are phenomenal. They're little bitty tiny Jewish women and they just really raise Cain. I'm just like, yeah, yeah. They just inspire me. If I lived with them, I'd be over there marching too. But I live in on this reservation in South Dakota. Nobody wants to march around here. So, uh, anyways, it's great. It's great to see you guys. I've been trying to work on getting people to come on, but it's really hard uh with Sundance season and that. So people are getting ready for their prayers and doing that. So someday I will have somebody to come on. Hey, there's even rednecks for Palestine, Steve. He's out there in Texas raising cane, redneck for Palestine. I follow him. He's crazy. So with that, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Don't forget to like. Um, don't forget to share, and don't forget to comment. All those things kind of help build. And if you know anybody that's looking for us, you can let them know we're on YouTube. Because some people just start saying, "What happened to you?" That's how they say it to me. Where'd you go? I was looking for you. I'm like, yeah, I'm on YouTube now. You got off Facebook. Can't do Meta anymore. I'm off everything Meta. So, okay. All right. Well, you guys have a good rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the weather. It's warming up a little bit. Nice week coming. The weather looks to be just right. Like just right. So hopefully it stays that way. And I'll tell you, I am seeing my blossoms and my seeds and my berries growing. So far, if weather is good to me this summer, I'm gonna have choke cherries, I'm gonna have plums, gonna have currants, gonna have buffalo berries. So I'm excited. So